All right, we want to welcome you all into episode 36 of Trojan Talk. I'm Zach Taranko here with Jeff Cushionberry and Cole Purvis on this Friday morning. How you guys doing?
Excellent.
So not a lot of TA sports to talk about this week as we're kind of in between the fall and winter seasons, but a couple of little shout-outs and things that happened this past week. One of the TA boys soccer players, Jeremiah Gomez, was named to the all-conference first team. There was 11 players picked for that, not really by position, but just by the top 11 players. So congratulations to him for that awesome award. And then something I saw the other day, so I'm assuming you guys have both heard of Big Time Hoops, this kind of Instagram page that kind of runs, I don't know, like a fun Instagram page, I guess, for basketball in the state of Maine. They decided to do a preseason survey. They sent a survey out to the top 40 boys players in the state and the top 40 girls players in the state. Not sure how they figured that out, but they did a survey and they had the players rank who they thought would be like, who was going to win Mr. Maine or Mrs. Maine and who was going to, be the top scorer. And a couple of RTA players were on that list. I'll just read through them real quick and then get your guys' thoughts. So Will Davies got 42% of the votes to win Mr. Maine. That was ranked first. 25% of the votes to win Gatorade Player of the Year, ranked second, behind Tegan Pelletier. And then the best guard for 38% of the votes, which was ranked first. Brandon Kamari was tied for first for the most underrated player, which was 13%. And then Alicio Marcus was tied third for the best big man, which was 9% of the votes. And then Addison Sulikowski was ranked top 3 for both best wing and best scorer. You guys have any thoughts on those?
Well, I think I noticed a couple things from that list. First off, I do think that they kind of disrespect TA a little bit, but not in these lists. In the past, they have a little bit, but they really showcase TA pretty well. And I think Will's really kickstarting his run to hopefully be Mr. Maine basketball. So that was good to see. And Braden being most underrated. And then we had a couple girls players, Addison Sulikowski, and I think Jessica Dow was on that list somewhere as well. I noticed a couple things. Last year, the big men in the state were outstanding, but now that John Shea graduated, he's at UMaine now, and then JP Estrella went to Brewster Academy, so he's no longer in the state of Maine. The big man position is not going to be quite as strong this year. They had Elliot Bouchard from Bonnie Eagle at the top of the list, and then Alicio was able to slide into, I think he was tied for third. Yep. I've heard Gorham is supposed to be really good this year, and I didn't see any Gorham players on there, so I feel like that's a team that's kind of flying under the radar. But, yeah, it's really cool that they do that, and it got a lot of reaction from basketball fans around the state, so I thought it was a really cool idea.
It's going to be a fascinating season, not only for TA, but the whole state, because of last year's frenzy with the two big players, two of the best players we've ever seen, and now they're gone. Who's going to take in that void? I think Tegan Pelletier is kind of, Will's going to be up there, but Tegan's the one guy who everyone's thinking is the next guy that's going to get a big college scholarship offer, and he's only a junior, obviously. So on the big picture front, it's going to be really interesting. Big Time Hoops is a site, or I guess a site, really a Instagram page that really blew up last year, and a lot of others did too because of these two kids, these two special players. It's going to be interesting to see just on the business side how they keep the hype going. That's what those kind of pages are all about. You need to keep the hype going. So hopefully for them, they can figure out a way because. Look, in general, there's not going to be as much interest in Maine high school basketball this year, not surprisingly because of how crazy it was last year. So, look at these two top players. Will has basically played, he didn't play varsity his freshman year, but swung a little bit, I think, near the end, and then certainly his sophomore year. So how's he going to take that next step? Last year we saw him, obviously an amazing ball handler, can score, but definitely had some times during games where he turned the ball over quite a bit. And he's going to have to he can't do that this year because really the question is what's going to happen in the front court for TA. Marcus being tied for the third best big man. He was inconsistent last year and had some great games, but he's going to have to do a lot of the more dirty work that Cody Ruff did, and not get any foul trouble because it's not like they have the two guys like they had last year. They're only going to really have him unless somebody else steps up, obviously. So it's going to be a huge task for him. Kamari, shooting the three, again, hot and cold, some days hit the lights out. But the question is who's going to score? Who's going to be the consistent scorer for the team? And in general in the league, TA is going to be TA and SoPo probably again in the South. I think it's going to be a lot closer in terms of, last year was really SoPo and a big gap between the next teams. Everyone was just talking about Nokomis and South Portland, but this year it could be a lot different. But interesting. And for the girls' side, I mean, they returned pretty much everybody, and no pressure on Coach Marston, but there's no reason this team shouldn't be at least in the regional final this year. I know we're going way ahead of the curve, and that's 4 months away, but on paper they look pretty dominant. But injuries can always take effect. But I think the path towards a potential state title run is a little bit clearer for the girls right now than the boys. Not that they can't do it; they have the talent. It's just a matter of how do you fill in those gaps, because they lost a lot of good guys from last year.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the one point I wanted to make was, looking back to what Cole said before, is this big time hoops thing I think does does TA a little dirty. Last year it was all South Portland, Jalen Jackson, JP Estrella. That's all it was, or any other school. They never really had anything on Will Davies or Cody Ruff or any of them, even when they were playing really well or even when we were winning good games, which is sad to see, because you like to see that your players are getting recognized, and I think those guys like to see themselves on those pages.
Well, the thing is, look, and I've had a lot more experience in this, and before Instagram and it was big, those newspapers do the same thing. It's like they're going to go where their butter is breaded, or their bread is buttered. Their bread is buttered. They're looking for clicks, and they want to cover, and again, the reporters are the same way. When the reporters choose what they cover for sports, they're thinking about, and not 100%, but some of them, or at least their editors are thinking, like, what's going to get the most views? Is it going to be, I'll throw out Yarmouth versus Freeport field hockey game, or is it going to be, Portland versus Cheverus football back in the day? Like, they're going to choose a football game, and obviously, when you have these websites that are looking for likes, shares, comments, last year was like, you got to put stuff about Estrella because, and obviously Cooper Flag, because if somebody who lives 2 hours away from Nokomis, like, I look at everything about that because you want to see what this kid's going to do in the NBA maybe. So it's interesting. So yeah, TA was a good team, but they didn't have that sexiness. Edward Little was the sexy pick last year, South Portland, because of their superstar Nokomis. Those three got a lot of those three teams, and they were really good, obviously. Though Edward Little kind of choked in the playoffs, which I wasn't too sad about. But it's always taking that stuff with a grain of salt. Now this year, I guarantee you, if Will Davies, has a good year, like, he's not going to be Cooper Flag. Obviously, no one can expect that. But you're going to see a lot more Will Davies covered and Thornton Academy covered, because those sites, they need eyeballs, and they're not going to cover teams that aren't as interesting to the general masses. So, especially in basketball, it's really built on superstars in every level. And when you talk about these kind of side websites and stuff and brands, that's what they need to build on. Yeah. Davies will get a lot of publicity this year, rightfully so.
Yeah. Well, obviously the winter sports and practices don't really start until late November, and we still have no word on the hockey season.
It's getting close, because girls hockey is supposed to start next week, because girls hockey starts before, I think. So I know that there was one story a few days ago.
They have the same situation with the refs.
Oh, yeah, it's the same thing. And I saw a story, a few days ago saying that it was the state, some outside entity was like forcing them to go back to the table to negotiate the two sides, but
who knows?
I don't know.
I guess, I hope that they play. I don't think there's any.
I can't imagine they don't. I can't imagine they don't come up with a deal. But the problem is that that it's the precedent part. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you just in a vacuum, if they say, hey, pay the hockey refs or not, they're going to pay them. But then, like, that's going to set the market for all the other refs, and then you really get into a point where every sport it's just too much for the schools, because again, 90% of sports don't charge to get in or anything. So I see both sides, because it's a hard sport to referee.
Yeah, it is. It's probably the hardest sport you have. It's the most active a referee has to be.
100%.
But I'm hoping that they figure it out soon. I think the games, at least for hockey, start the same time that basketball does. I'm not sure when the practices do, but we'll keep a word out, and we'll see. You'll probably see it before we get a word out on whether or not we're going to be broadcasting any games. But with not much to talk about left, we'll switch over to the professional sports side, which we do have a lot to talk about. We'll start with the NFL. Lots of action through Week 8, lots of up and downs. My team is currently in the top of the NFC South, which is...
My team? I thought you said you were disowning them this year.
Well, I'm not disowning them.
You were very pessimistic. They're not like they're good. Not that they're good. That division's a dumpster fire, so congratulations.
I was pessimistic with Mariota, but now I'm optimistic.
What are they, 3-5?
4-4.
4-4. Yeah.
Everybody else is 3-5 or below. Your team is 4-4.
4-4.
And like third or something. You guys are terrible.
Fourth. We're actually still in last place.
Yeah. But a lot of good action. One of the big topics I want to talk about was I wanted to ask your guys' thoughts on the Seattle Seahawks. They just beat Who'd they just beat? I know this off the top of my head.
Giants.
They just beat the Giants. That's right. And I was very surprised because I thought the Giants would put up more of a fight than they did. But the Seahawks are now 5-3. They are kind of dominating that NFC West division, and they are in first as well. What do you guys think about the Seahawks this year?
Well, Pete Carroll finally gets what he wanted. He's been very stubborn about wanting to run the ball his entire career, and really since Marshawn Lynch left, he's had a lot of average running backs to work with, and now he's got a stud in Kenneth Walker, who they really hit on in the draft, and he is just playing out of his mind right now. He had a touchdown last week, and he's been a really good workhorse for them. And Geno Smith is doing enough. He's making some really impressive throws. And, when Russ left, I thought a guy like – it was kind of sad for a guy like DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett because their talent might be a little bit wasted Tyler Lockett's a little past his prime, but DK especially is going right into his prime. But they've picked up right where they left off with Russ and have maybe even been playing a little bit better. And so this offense is really moving, and their defense too. They got they have a very good defense. Tariq Woolen is a really impressive rookie for them. Might win Defensive Rookie of the Year. We'll see. But very well-rounded team and well-coached. And Pete Carroll in the later days of his coaching career is doing really well. I don't think they'll win a playoff game or anything. I think eventually it'll catch up to them, but who knows? And they played a Giants team who's been impressive, and they won. So it's a little exciting storyline to see. And they get the Bucks in Germany in a couple weeks. And I remember looking at that game, and I'm like, okay, so they put a good team facing a bad team, and it looks like it's going to be the Seahawks the other way. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, hopefully they can keep it going because Geno's been fun to watch.
Both West divisions this year make no sense to me because really of the 8 teams in those divisions, there's only one team that's doing what we thought they would do, and that's the Chiefs. I mean, the West, the Rams look terrible. Like they look like they don't know how to play anymore. The 49ers, they've had some injuries. I think they're going to end up winning that division. Are the Seahawks the real deal? No, I don't think. I mean, they played way well, better than I thought. But I mean, the rest of that division is still getting their stuff together. The Cardinals, I guess the Cardinals are who we thought they were. They're just average. And you look at the AFC West. I mean, the Raiders are shocking to me how bad they are. The Chargers are underachieving like usual. The Chiefs are doing what they do, and the Broncos are terrible too. So really interesting divisions. I think the Seahawks will sneak. I think they'll make the playoffs as a wild card, but I mean it's a little thing. I will say this: they're looking like they got a steal on that Russell Wilson deal. I mean the amount of draft capital and everything else they got for a quarterback who obviously doesn't look like he still has it. Good for Pete Carroll on that front. But it's an interesting story, and the New York teams are also interesting too because both teams, I think, their record does not reflect how good they are because they're not as good as their record reflects. Both of them have kind of won, and we saw that against the Jets. The Patriots, I mean, that team was disastrous. Yep. Zach Wilson is just putrid when they let him play. You know what I mean? Like the reason they won those games because they're like, don't do anything stupid. And then, just some of those the passes he rolls out, no one's there, he's not under pressure, and he just throws it to the other team. It's just like, I remember texting my friends being like, are you even excited? Like, how could you be even excited for that as a Patriots fan? It's just like, that is such bad play. If that happened in high school, you'd be like, that kid sucks. And you got a multi-million-dollar quarterback doing it. So, and the Giants, it's a cool story. Like I think the Giants being good is good for the NFL, even though I don't like the Giants, obviously, for obvious Super Bowl reasons in the past 20 years. But I have a lot of Giants friends from college, and that for me is New York's team. The Jets are just kind of there. So, but they're both teams that could easily miss the playoffs. I think still both those New York teams. Yeah, especially the Jets because they could free fall.
I think these next couple of weeks are important for both those teams. I mean, the Jets have a bye week.
They have the Bills this week, I think.
Yep, a bye week next week.
Patriots in a few weeks too.
Yeah, so they have some divisional matchups they kind of need to win. I'm not sure about Buffalo. I mean, this is what I'll tell you. I took the Jets defense off of my fantasy team for this week versus Buffalo.
Oh yeah,
because
it's not worth it.
Yeah, they played really well against the Pats, but
the Jets are 5-3. They could end up 6-11 this year easily in my mind. But
we'll talk a little bit of the trade deadline. So before the trade deadline, which was Wednesday. It looked like there wasn't going to be a lot of trades. That was the exact opposite. There was 10 trades on deadline day. Nothing that stood out to me, but a couple good ones. Bradley Chubb goes to the Dolphins. Naheem Hines was switched for Zach Moss. So
crap for crap.
I mean,
Naheem Hines is good. Zach Moss is the crap.
Yeah.
Naheem Hines is
Singletary.
good.
I have a Singletary owner in fantasy, so that's worthless now.
Jeff Wilson went to the Dolphins, which I guess finally worked out. I was so confused about why the 49ers had 3 running backs, but they finally moved that player. And then, I mean, the only other one that was kind of notable was Chase Claypool of the Bears, but let's be honest, it's not really that much of a of a move. Oh, and then Roquan
Smith,
Smith.
yeah.
That was the other one. So,
Yeah.
is there any clear winners? Did anybody do a good job? Anybody, anything that stood out to you guys?
100% the Dolphins. I mean, they took all the picks that they traded for. I saw this tweet. It was like, so the ones that they give up for Trey Lance, at the spot to trade Trey Lance, they got Jalen Waddle, they got Chubb, and they got not Wilson, but somebody else.
Oh, they traded it in the Tyreek Hill trade.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill. I mean,
Yes.
that's a pretty good haul for 3 first-round picks or whatever. So, I love what they did. Chubb is a great player. You probably wanted out of Denver. We signed him to a massive contract, like 5 years, 100 or 4 years, 120 million or something crazy.
Yep.
At least they're going for it, And even though they looked a little shaky here in the last quarter of the season, they're clearly the second best team in the AFC East, and I think that pick will help because everybody knows they can score, and Tua's looked all right. It's just their defense hasn't been great, but with Chubb. So I think they were the clear winners. The Bears, I don't know what they're doing. You trade away a great linebacker who doesn't want to be there, then you trade for Claypool. The Bills just can't seem to find a running back. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think they need it. Singletary's not a bad running back. They just they abandoned the run after like 2 or 3 drives because Josh Allen can throw and run for all it anyway. So that's kind of a minimal move. And the Dolphins getting Jeff Wilson also. They don't really have much of a running game, but they don't need it either. When you have 2 of the best wide receivers in the NFL. So those are the ones that stuck out. And then of course Patriots do nothing because we're fine. That's Bill's mindset. We're fine. We're gonna win 10 games and make the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. It's just depressing.
I'm not mad at the Patriots for not making a move. It would be tough to get somebody to acclimate to the offense in the middle of the season, especially when we're maybe turning the corner here. But the Packers were a big loser, didn't make any moves, and they're sitting at 3-5 right now. They have Detroit this week, and they really need to win that game. Absolute must win for them. And Aaron Rodgers was saying that he was hoping that they would make a move, and they did not. So they've got some decent options right now, but maybe he wanted somebody else. And they got Christian Watson hurt, but they still have Lazard there. So that's going to be super interesting to see if the Packers can turn it around. And the Bears, it was interesting. It looked like they're going into full rebuild mode, and then they go out and trade for Chase Claypool, who I think they can use a little bit better than the Steelers did because the Steelers almost kind of wasted his talent because he's a really good player, big jump ball receiver, and he wasn't super productive with Pittsburgh with how bad their QB play has been. So we'll see if Justin Fields can maybe be a little bit better. But, I think the trade deadline – in the past, it's usually trades in the NFL are rare, like big-time starters getting traded. And now you're starting to see that shift, and there's a little bit more activity at the deadline.
I missed one of the best ones was T.J. Hawkinson to the Vikings.
Yeah.
Which
what are the Lions thinking? That's one of their only
yeah,
good players.
The deal wasn't terrible. I think it was Hodgkinson in a 5th for like a 2nd and a 3rd or 2nd and a 4th round pick. So
and Hawkinson was a top 10 pick a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he's had a decent season. I had him in fantasy last year, and he had some really bad weeks. But just another weapon for Kirk Cousins. I think the Vikings have a really good chance to make a run this year. They got a lot of good receivers. Dalvin Cook was dealing with some injuries in the first couple of weeks, but now seems to be right back on it, and they've got a decent defense. So.
One thing though, the trade deadline, the Patriots failed because they should have gone out and got Roquan Smith. That was a good price for a stud linebacker in his prime or entering his prime. But they don't have any linebackers.
What do you mean?
The Patriots linebacking core is so average.
Is it what? It's Judon, Van
No. I'm talking about middle. Roquan Smith is more of a middle linebacker.
Bentley, McMillan, not very good.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the one move that was maybe on the table for us, but I'm really not that mad. I didn't really expect
when
it.
we see the price, that's the kind of and Bill Belichick loved Lawrence Taylor for obvious reasons, but he had Gerard Mayo, he had Dante Hightower, all cornerstones of Super Bowl winning teams, and now you have nobody in the middle, and this was a fair price. They stink at drafting most of the time, especially like linebackers. Their drafting's been terrible. They have Uche and Anthony Jennings or whatever his name is. Like this was it's just when I saw the price, like a first round pick, maybe not, but the guy's affordable. I don't know. It's just right. Maybe he didn't. If I'm Roquan Smith, I want to go to the Ravens anyway because they have a better chance of winning in the next 3 or 4 years than the Patriots. Maybe that had part of it, but it would have been nice to at least for the Patriots to try for it. Maybe they didn't. Who knows if it actually happened? But
I was right though. The outside linebackers is it Judon and Kyle Van Noy?
No,
Kyle Van Noy's
Van
on the Chargers right now.
Judon is, but Judon, he's basically the only player that if the Patriots got rid of right now, I'd be mad at. Everybody else, I'm like, they're replaceable.
They started a lot of inexperienced guys on defense this year, like McMillan and Jennings. It's
We
a pretty trash
Jamie
linebacking
Collins.
core.
I mean, he
Yeah,
stinks.
Jamie
Four-time with the
Jamie
team.
Collins signs with them like every single year.
Yeah.
He's had like 6 stints with the Patriots.
All right. Well, while we're on the Patriots, let's talk about their turnover problems. They're 4-4, and I'm not saying that they're the worst team, but this Mac Jones cannot seem to throw a completed pass this year with the amount of interceptions he's thrown. Some terrible ones. I'll give him a break on the one he threw early in the Jets game where it got tipped off the back of his hand and went like 100 feet in the air, and then
No, it's still on him. You got to step up in the pocket, and the biggest difference about Mac Jones this year is he's not stepping up, he's not feeling the pressure. So that one, and I resisted the zappy calls for weeks, and then it's funny when you look back when he threw that horrible interception that was called back because of a ticky-tack roughing the passer. I literally put in my group chat, put in Zappy, because at that point I'm just like, you can't do that to your team when you're down by 7 on the road against division opponents. Before I saw the flag, obviously. After the flag, I'm like, whatever. You can't do that. Yeah. And I'm not saying that Zappy's the answer at all. I just think they have 2 kind of crappy quarterbacks. And it's not all Mac's fault. I mean, he's put in a terrible situation with coaches who don't know what they're doing offensively. Mm-hmm. So, look, even last year when he was having his good year, I said, look, he's got a ceiling. He's never going to be Lamar Jackson and all these guys, Josh Allen. He's just never going to be that. He could be maybe Matthew Stafford if you surround him with unbelievable talent, which I don't think the Patriots will ever do. It's because they just haven't been able to evaluate talent as like they're still evaluating talent as though they have number 12 back there that could win you 12 games sleepwalking and win any game on his own, which is just not going to happen. So I'm pessimistic on that front, but. Yeah, the turnovers are a big deal. I mean, the running back situation has been fine. Aguilar had a lot of fumbles early in the year, but Mac has got to stop throwing picks. He threw a decent amount of picks last year, but was able to overcome it. Mm-hmm. But this year, he just looks skittish. And I mean, look, he should be the starter the rest of the year no matter what, because Zappy's not the answer either. So I think you just roll with Mac. He's a first-round pick and see what happens. But yeah, the turnovers are they just have such a. You hear a lot of the pundits say this. They have such a small margin for error. They cannot make mistakes. I mean, the only reason they won that game on Sunday is not because how well they played. It's because the Jets completely puked on themselves in the second half. Like completely, couldn't move the ball, couldn't stop them. So that's the reason they won the game. And if you rely on teams to do that, then you're going to get what happened in 2019 when they went 8-0 and then got destroyed. 2019 with Brady, and then 2020 whatever they stunk. But then last year, same thing. They went on this big run in the middle of the year. They were 9-4 or 9-3 at one point. And everyone's like, here we go. But they were playing teams who didn't have anybody. They played the Titans without Derrick Henry, and every single Nick Chubb didn't play for them against the Browns. So it's like, okay, these teams are puking all over themselves, and you're getting wins. But then you're going to get to the playoffs, and you're going to play the Ravens, and you're going to get beat by 30 points. And then where are you? Then you're back to square one. So. Yeah, they just have such a small margin for error, and they just got to keep running the ball because they can't seem to. And it's not on Mac all because the offensive line stinks as well. Yep.
And I think they said this on the broadcast that 90% of NFL games are lost, not won. And the Jets definitely lost that game. We did not win that game, but I completely agree with you about the turnovers. Mac needs to climb the pocket more, like you were saying. He's making these awful throws off of his back foot, like he thinks he's Aaron Rodgers and can just fling it down the sideline and pinpoint it, which he cannot do. And he's made some terrible throws. And that pick six, I agree with you. I've been firm in my stance that I think they should roll with Mac for the rest of the year. But there was a glimpse of Zappy fever during that game when Mac threw the pick six, which was eventually called back.
That would have been.
What was he thinking on that play?
I gotta say that was not roughing the passer.
It is in 2022, and it shouldn't be, but it is. But Mac didn't think it was. Mac was walking off the field.
He walked off the field. If that would have been a season-changing pick six.
For sure.
They would have lost.
They would have lost the game,
and then they would
probably
have
put in Zappy. It would have been totally.
It would have been. Yeah, but
I mean, glad they didn't. Glad they won, but it's like. It's so hard because we're so spoiled as Patriots fans, and I watch that game and I'm like, am I even happy? Like, no, because to win a game, and look, we see it in high school sometimes where in the past few years, like TA's had a game where they haven't played that well, but they just play such abject other teams that you're like, ugh, well, that team just literally just dropped a snap and we got the ball. Congratulations. You know what I mean? Like, That's the thing with the Patriots now. It's like, oh, okay, it's great. We beat the Jets, who, they were 5-2, but boy, they look terrible.
We talked a lot about the NFL this week, so we'll end this episode with some pick the winners.
Go Bruins, by the way. I'll just do a quick 10 seconds.
Yeah,
you must be all over the moon. I mean, are they going to go like 74-8 this year?
No, they're not. No, not even close.
I don't know. They're on pace
too many
for that.
injuries right now, but we'll see where that goes. So we'll do.
He doesn't want to jinx it. So.
I know. I can't.
Exactly. You can tell he wants it.
I keep waiting for them to lose like 5 straight. I'm just waiting.
I think they will. It'll happen.
Yeah. All right. So we got some good games this week for the NFL. Our first one that I have is the Seahawks at the Cardinals.
I'm going to go Cardinals. I know the Seahawks are doing well. The Cardinals is just one of those teams that somehow they're going to end up being around 500. They're not a good team, but it's at the Cardinals, and and it's a week after Modern Warfare comes out, so maybe Kyler Murray has had his fill. He had his huge thing, and now he's going to be able to settle down and study a little bit.
I agree. I think the Cardinals win. Everybody's going to be picking the Seahawks for this one.
That'd be interesting betting line one. Like if you saw the spread, I bet you could make some money on the spread.
Mm-hmm.
It says it's Arizona's minus 2.0, and the over/under for points is 49.5.
Arizona. I don't know about the over/under, but Arizona. Yeah.
Then we got probably what I think is the most irrelevant game, and nobody really cares about, is the Rams versus the Buccaneers, because both teams are terrible.
No, I think that's hugely entertaining because if the Bucs lose 3-6, I mean, Brady could retire. I'm gonna go Rams because I want it to happen because I want Brady just to drown.
Well, what about the revenge tour? Because his divorce was filed.
No, he's done. He's a done fish this year.
I'm gonna go with the Rams.
I'm gonna go Bucks. I think Brady pulls it around. Then we got the Sunday Night Football, Titans at the Chiefs.
Fascinating game. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go Titans.
Oh, I was good. We picked the same for like everyone. I thought I was gonna be different and go with the Titans, but you know what? I'm sticking with my pick. Me and Jeff are riding with the Titans this week.
Right. I mean, that could go either way, but again, it's one of those games like everyone's gonna say, Chiefs, Chiefs, but like the Titans, they got something going right now.
I can see that happening.
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go opposite with you guys. I'm gonna go Chiefs. I think Chiefs have it, and then I'm gonna swing it back to 1:00, and I'm gonna make this interesting. Instead of just doing Colts versus Patriots, because I think all of us would probably pick the Patriots because the Colts have probably Sam Ehlinger's probably gonna play. I'm gonna say Patriots. You have to pick either the Colts or the Patriots to win by 10. You don't just pick the Patriots. You pick the Patriots.
I'm gonna get if a team's gonna win by 10, it's gonna be the Colts.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you saying like
you're picking
more likely of a blowout?
You're picking the Colts or you're picking the Patriots to win.
So like Patriots minus 10, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I would go with the Colts then. So if the Patriots win by 7, I still win, right?
Yeah. No, you don't. No, wait, you're picking Colts? Yeah. So if the Patriots win by less than 10.
Yeah.
Fine, I'll go over. I'll go over 10.
You go.
I'll go under 10.
Late touchdown secures it.
Okay. I'm gonna stick under 10 because I don't know. Ehlinger didn't play bad last week, and Matt Ryan might play. Who knows?
He's not playing now. He's done. He won't play again this year because it's all about money. Because I think if he plays a little more, he gets a few more incentives, and they don't want that much.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 36. I want to thank you all for watching, and we will see you all next week.